The ferocious battle between the Green King Broly and the Sadala Defense Force leader Cabba rages on. Cabba has the upper hand in his Super Saiyan form against Broly's Super Saiyan form, and they go toe to toe, knocking each other back and forth. However, Cabba has a clear upper hand on him. Despite how big and powerful Broly might seem, Cabba's had training from the gods, and his Super Saiyan form outclasses Broly's Super Saiyan form, which is when he decides to increase his power all the way to Super Saiyan 3 and overwhelm Cabba with this insane amount of strength, which Broly gives him a devilish grin as he threatens to do the same to Caulifla and Kale, confirming that he does know that they are here. He turns into a tornado of attacks of pure fury and beats Cabba all around the landscape until he loses it and unleashes his full power, Super Saiyan Blue. In the middle of the battle, Broly is taking severe damage and blows from Cabba as he's knocked back and forth by the new Super Saiyan Blue form. However, still standing his ground, and Broly has now developed a power to not exactly feed off, but adapt to the energies he's feeling. So, if someone with a primal ki comes in, it'll affect Broly's legendary form, causing it to become more primal and different and alternate between, giving him a sort of power boost. However, sometimes he keeps it, sometimes he doesn't, depending on how severe it is to his body and how bad the battle is. Anyways, Broly begins adapting to Cabba's Super Saiyan Blue form, and Cabba asks, why is he doing this? Maybe they could work out a peace treaty. This is the right way to do things, and Broly grabs him by the face and tells him that there is no right and wrong with him. He is not good or right. He is a devil. Broly kicks Cabba in the gut, sending him up into the air, then punching him through a mountain, knocking him out temporarily, or so he believes. Broly then begins to revert back to his legendary form and scout out the other Saiyans. Cabba then sneaks up and ninja kicks him in the face, and he keeps going and fighting, and telling Broly that he was trained by the God of Destruction. There's nothing that a devil can do against a god. And Broly grabs him by the face again and blows him up, leaving him completely destroyed, but still alive, and tells him, what is a god to a non-believer? And then powers up even more, evaporating the landscape, and then gut punching Cabba into the crater below, smirking. He then says that now he's off to kill his friends. He then takes off. Broly, still getting used to some of his power, is unable to keep his full Super Saiyan 3 form at the moment. However, he still wants to be menacing over Kale, so he arrives in his regular legendary Super Saiyan form and surprises her as she is exploring a unknown city right now that is currently under the Green King, aka Broly's rule, which is where Broly finally lands and meets her. However, as he does meet her, Kale was in the middle of a thought, thinking about her younger brother who had passed away, Kamori, and then is even more shocked to find out that this is not a flashback, it's reality, causes her to accidentally transform into Berserker legendary form and begin a battle with Broly. The battle is ferocious as they throw hands back and forth, and their power shaking the planet, with Kale using some original OG Broly moves like the chest blaster, causing a beam struggle. However, in her Berserker form, she cannot access God Ki, and thus is just on a total rampage as she decimates Broly as they begin going back and forth, as Broly cannot activate his Super Saiyan 3 yet, and Kale's on an unstoppable rampage. They go around destroying and shaking the planet, getting the attention of Caulifla, who can't sense Cabba right now, but is able to find out and see that Broly and Kale are shaking the planet and are on the verge of destroying it. However, unlike Kale, who is fighting out of blind rage, Broly is destroying things out of just sheer pleasure. He's enjoying this, and Kale is just an unstoppable force, and Broly's the immovable object. Powers being thrown around like never before seen. However, this battle of legendaries has to come to an end. Even Broly knows that, since he is the original legendary, as they copy each other's moves and hold a powerful legendary energy blast in their hands, reminiscent of each other. They throw it against each other in an attempt to destroy them, and their beam clash shakes the entire planet, with each of them putting all they have of their legendary Super Saiyan forms into it, almost destroying the planet. However, the winner is undecided, as Kale has transformed into her more mastered control of her legendary form. We will simply just call it Mastered Legendary, which she is now in full control over it and is ready to take on Broly with her full might. Kale begins to have the upper hand a little bit, which allows her to have some time to think about her younger brother Komori again, and remembers how playful they used to be, and they used to even live in the city just like this. It was so nice and peaceful there. But then Broly starts adapting and knocks her out of that thought, and then Kale realizes that she might need some backup on this, because despite no matter how hard she hits Broly just seems to come back and stronger, like she throws blast at him, he punches, kicks, everything. Nothing just seems to faze him. He seems legendarily unstoppable. There's almost nothing she can do. She even lets out an SOL with her ki, but so far no luck. She don't even think help will come. So she decides to put all her eggs in one basket and power up. She decides to hit Broly with absolutely everything she has and dump all her energy into it. However, Broly does the same after he recovers from her attack and instantly destroys her without her god. Kale then opens her eyes to find that Caulifla is carrying her, and they stand side by side as Kale questions, when did she get here? And Caulifla says that that's not important. Who is this guy? And she says that this is the Saiyan that went rogue. She don't know what happened to Cabba, but his ki is faint. And Caulifla says that maybe it's time for them to show him some 2v1 action like they did against Goku in the Tournament of Power. However, this time they're going to actually win the fight. And Kale nods and agrees. However, Caulifla asks her why she hasn't turned into her god form, and Kale says that she doesn't remember. She was warned by Champa, don't be using your god forms willy-nilly. If you throw around too much god power, he will eventually have to get involved, referring to Champa, and he might end up erasing them, or Sadala just for disobeying his orders. So let's use the god forms as a last-ditch effort. And Caulifla chuckles and says that luckily her ultimate form isn't a god form at all, so she might not be limited by it. And Kale says that if she transforms too high, it might throw off their synergy. And Caulifla says, I can respect that. They then get into fighting stance and race in against Broly. Against Broly, going back and forth, jumping up and around him, doing acrobats and whatnot, throwing him across the landscape until he turns Super Saiyan 3 and goes full power in that form and goes back and forth with them, able to keep up now, equivalent to how Super Saiyan God Goku did. However, this time a 2v1 is even, as their powers match each other. Wherever one has a flaw, the other counters, and with Broly he's a tank, and in this form he's able to take him on. However, their synergy is slowly weakening, and Caulifla begins to get frustrated and brash, and Kale tells her to be smart and don't transform, and she turns Super Saiyan 4 and races in against Broly, and that alone makes her even to Super Saiyan 3, if not slightly surpassing it. However, Broly comments that he's seen that somewhere before, and then he grabs Caulifla's arm and begins crushing it, causing her to scream out in pain, and Kale gets triggered by this, and she goes into her legendary god form and races in and uppercuts Broly into the atmosphere and then across the landscape, shattering some of the planet. Kale then lands down, catching Caulifla and reverting back to her normal mastered legendary form. and Caulifla gritting her teeth, saying that she almost had him, and then realizing that her arm's damaged, she won't be able to fight as properly, and her synergy is messed up with Kale. There's nothing they can do now. And then they hear a dark voice and an ominous presence from the distance, and he asks, "Why do you think that I was the god here? Why do you think I became king? Why do you think I take the title of devil? It's not a job title. It's not something just handed out. I am the devil. I am all powerful here. And your little cage that you put us all in, all you did was doom yourself to the power of my primal form." As Broly then raises him behind them and holds a energy ball in his hand, he tells them that the end has come, and then detonates it, blowing up the energy around himself and the two girls, seeing them rocketing back into the floor as they're helpless against the power of dark Super Saiyan 4 Broly. And groans and gets back up to her feet and tells Kale that there is a way for them to still win. They could use fusion. However, Kale tells her that they have no Patara and they can't get off the planet. The barrier will only lift after Broly is destroyed. So there's nothing they can do. They're stuck here. And Caulifla says that, no, remember they learned some training from the Metamorans whenever they went and saved the Metamoran planet. Which, in turn, they taught them the Metamoran fusion dance. But will Broly even give them time to be able to do it? As they didn't see Broly harnessing some energy in his hand and getting ready to throw it down at the planet. Caulifla says that if they go in their full power right now and push the blast back, they might be able to escape, but she has to use her god form. And Kale says that she can do that. She'll do it for her quote-unquote sister. Kale and Caulifla roar in unison as she transforms into legendary god form and Caulifla transforms into Super Saiyan 4. With their energy shaking the planet and the barrier starting to weaken, they then use their full power and fire against Broly's gigantic energy blast. And when it clashes, it causes a massive explosion, not hurting anybody other than Caulifla and Kale because they couldn't hit it back. They could just detonate it. However, the crater they left leaves them not in there, which Broly almost thinks for a second that he did kill them. However, he can sense Ki now, and Caulifla and Kale have ran off to some mountain somewhere, and they're like, okay, we can do this. Let's do it real quick. Let's try it. And as they're getting into position, Broly comes in from behind and smacks them both away, saying, "Did you really think you could escape from me that easily?" Which is when the MVP, Cabba, arrives in a glorious Super Saiyan 3 form and goes against Broly, knocking him away. He then reverts back to base form as that was all his energy. It was just enough to get Broly away from him. He says that he'll hold off Broly. All they have to do is fuse. He then races in and charging in at the full power of his base form and goes in back and forth as Broly begins mercilessly torturing him. He even has enough power to go Super Saiyan and then land and then uppercut Broly. However, Broly breaks his arm and then begins beating him mercilessly until he snaps and Cabba loses his Saiyan transformation and is believed to be dead. And then, from the bright light in the distance, the new fusion of Kale and Caulifla has arrived. Kale. The fusion then wipes away some sweat and the sparkles end up igniting the air, blowing Broly back as she disappears and then spin kicks Broly into the ground as she towers over Broly. Kale is the ultimate fusion between Kale and Caulifla, and part 3 will be out soon.